It's Wednesday, that means it's a DeFi review day for Brave New Coin. Take a look at some DeFi charts here. Now, I don't know what Solana is personally, if it's DeFi, DeFi adjacent, ETH killer, if it even does anything at all. But the chart is at all-time highs, continues to push all-time highs. Now, the black heart in me would want this thing to Christmas tree, Burj Khalifa, Eiffel Tower, back down to 45. That's where I'd be personally, as a trader, be comfortable getting into this thing because it looks like it's just way overblown. RSI's at infinity. And this is where people like me who know anything get in trouble because this thing will probably go to 140 without me, right? And then the people that are in here will think they're a genius. And then inevitably that'll retrace down sub 50, most likely, over time. But this thing, obviously, the hottest flavor of the week coin at the moment. The 1618 fib from high to low is just the baseline target. That and the measured move is basically 100. I think a lot of people are just looking at that level at this point in time. But this had the triple bottom inverted head and shoulders, multi-week, rising wedge, bullish cross on the 12-hour, and the rising wedge actually broke up, which I guess in crypto is common, but classically isn't necessarily a bullish chart pattern expectation in my mind. So I would, that chart isn't for me, neither is Serum, but I'm talking about both of them because maybe they're DeFi, I don't know. Serum, same thing, it had the triple bottom bull cross rising wedge that broke up. Previously in this range, it had inverted head and shoulders that broke up, and then a head and shoulders that broke down. Kind of weirdly enough, these inverted head and shoulders have like this stop out mentality to them before they actually move. Kind of strange that it did that in both directions, but in any case, this is at the 3618 fib extension from the W. Not quite to all-time highs, but looks like it's certainly going to retest that at some point. But again, this just isn't for me. It's way past overextended in my mind. Bull div or bear div eventually, but like bear divs anywhere, this stuff can last a whole month before it actually cools down a little bit. And by the time it cools down, it could just be back to this level at 8. I don't know. But much like the $100 level for Sol, people are probably looking to 10 here for Serum. Just a psychological level. Moving on to the DeFi perp on FTX. This thing had multiple falling wedges. It had the W, it had the cross. It's breaking up now back into that comfy, cozy range of February, March, April. And it looks like it wants to retest that resistance eventually, much like Serum and Sol. This looks less overbought than those both do. Less of a crazy RSI on the 12-hour or on the daily here. And again, you can see how long RSI can just trend uber positive in the bullish camp, and prices still just keep going, right? Like the expectation of a bear div isn't enough typically to reverse a trend. It needs kind of multiple weeks of waning momentum. And even still, this thing popped off again with a bear div, right? So it slowed down and went sideways and kept going. That was certainly not an expectation, but eventually this thing does, as inevitably usually happens, just crashes down. So watch for that. This is like Q1 2022 stuff I'm talking here, but that's always something in the back of my mind. Are there any divs here? What do the higher highs look like? What's the expectation in the next week or two? Moving on to some individuals, we'll start with Link. Link fell out of the pitchfork with a bearish cross. This was a multi-year pitchfork. It was working on getting back into that cross with a bull cross on the 5200. The expectation when this thing falls out is not it's going to mean revert, right? It's an if this then that situation. If this falls out, then it's not bullish anymore. If this gets back in, then we can say, okay, it's probably going to the midline. If this remains in the pitchfork until the end of the year, I could see a $100 midline level price for Link. But there's a lot of time between now and December 31st. Just something to keep in mind. The Link Marines could care less because, they're going to tell me to have fun staying poor no matter what I say. But this does have the potential now that it has recovered and hasn't sold off along with the rest of the market. I think this thing would have sold off if it hadn't been for the rest of the market pulling up. But that's about like a 4x plus potentially by the end of the year if this thing can hold bullish. Band, like everything else, triple bottom, breakout, double bottom, working on a cross now. Most of these charts have reached their sort of 1618 targets, but much like previously here for band, it had this inverted head and shoulders, it had the cross, it broke up, consolidated again, went again. So it isn't like over for the bullish stuff. It just probably means we're going to slow down a little bit on some of these charts, figure out how bullish we are. Do we get some sort of consolidation, continuation? That's always the most healthy. The most healthy thing is slow consolidation, just going over and over again after a consolidation. So I think that's where a lot of these charts are sitting. I think band is sitting in that camp. Uni as well. Uni had that W double bottom with a descending triangle threat, broke up, got your cross on the 12-hour, and it reached its W target. So at this point, I wouldn't expect anything massive further in the near term. That doesn't mean I'm not bullish. That doesn't mean this trend won't continue. It just means this thing took weeks to W out and then reached its target in a couple days. And now it's going to need some time. Sushi, very similar. Triple bottom, bull cross, out of the bearish pitchfork into some volume resistance. The healthy thing for all this stuff is just to reconsolidate just below all-time highs and then push for mega all-time highs past that. So for sushi, you want consolidation in the $15 to $20 range. That would point to higher highs. Curve, just like uni, had that W breaking up, has a cross probably over the next couple days. Hasn't quite reached its 1618 or measured move target yet, but generally also bullish. All these charts are rather bullish or flipping bullish. Balancer, triple bottom W, eventual 5200 cross here. And for BAL, the next VPVR level is at around 36.5, something like that. So I like that eventually. Now these charts are particularly bearish in any way. They're just grinding. BNT, same thing. Bancor moving up. Just a series of higher highs day after day after day. This was a bear div because you're getting higher highs on equal RSI. That is a subtle or slight or whatever you want to call it bear div, but it's definitely a bear div. So it's dealing with that. It's reconsolidating. The best case scenario for all this stuff is a bull cross exactly at price because that gives it the most upside potential. So the slower this goes, the better. That's fine. Looks bullish to me. 1 inch mega reversal big time on this falling wedge. I think just like sushi and all these other charts that are nearing their all-time highs once again, it's going to need to reconsolidate between 4 and 6 before it goes again, which is basically what this squiggle is suggesting. They'll probably test this range, then test the support, and then attempt a 6+ push. But this looks fine. Bull cross here. You had your bear div there as well. Tons of volume here at the $5 level. ZRX, same thing. All these charts are extremely similar. ZRX looks like it wants 150 eventually, 150, 160. Just slowing down right now, looks fine. Nothing super exciting there. Aave had that in more of an inverted head and shoulders than a W. You can see a clear mega low in the middle here. And now you have your bull cross, almost reached its target, almost back in the pitchfork. This is a pretty aggressive, like 45-degree angle plus trend. So if it can get back into that thing, Aave's Q4 is going to be pretty explosive. But right now it's sitting just below, nearly reached its measured move target. So again, nothing looks terrible by any means, just slowing down here. Maker, same story, just like Aave. Had its bull cross, triple bottom, 4080 is a good target in the near term. Nothing too crazy going on there, still looks bullish. Comp, one of the biggest disappointments of all of them so far, had the best setup in my opinion. It had perfect horizontal resistance, very near previous horizontal resistance with the head and shoulders thing, or whatever you want to call this, ascending triangle. That broke up, this did not break up effectively, just got sold down heavily every time it attempted to break out. I still like the setup, I don't think it's gone just yet, but you definitely don't want to see anything below 400. Anything above 480, it's probably good to go. How many times can it test resistance before it eventually breaks out? And ideally this goes to 550, somewhere around there. SNX also has a pretty decent setup that has not yet moved up with an Adam and Eve here, or ascending triangle, which is what it may eventually become. Hasn't had its 12-hour cross yet, and this looks like it wants 17 to 20, so a 2x-ish from here. Still looks fine, nothing at threat just yet, but you don't want to see lower lows, right? You don't want to see that anymore. Once it's made a series of lower lows, once it's made this chart pattern, once it's ready to make its bull cross on the 12-hour, the table is set, dinner is ready. We're telling everybody to come to the table. So you don't want this to be a fake out. You want it to be the real deal if this breaks 13 again. Melon has a bit of an interesting diagonal support. Doesn't really look like any other chart in crypto. Pretty small market cap. It's the Enzyme token, and it has somewhat of a inverted head and shoulders, ascending triangle situation to it. I've been thinking about the token for a while. I think there's possibly a bot that's just buying this based on TVL. Once TVL increases, my guess is some entity's just buying this. I don't know for sure, that's just a guess, but this is very clearly some sort of support. So you don't want to see this break to the downside. Still looks fine, still looks okay. The resistance is basically at 115 to 130, and then it'll probably test all-time highs if it can hold this diagonal support. So overall, everything looks fine. Not super exciting. SNX and Comp are probably the biggest laggards of the group that have decent upside potential from here. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio I trade for Techemy Capital on Enzyme.Finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can see everything, including AUM, performance, allocation, trades in the tab below here. Sometimes it says trouble loading, but I guarantee you it's there, as well as all the DeFi coins I'm in at the moment and the yield plays I'm sitting in. Lots of Yearn vaults on the DeFi portfolio. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.